Well, welcome to Box Story. My name is Rakeem. Today we're just going to be going through the career and the boxing life of Shotgun Shannon O'Connell. Shannon is ranked #1 by the WBA, #1 in Australia, #4 on BoxRec. She's the WBA Gold Champion, the Commonwealth Champion, the Australian Champion. She's done a few things. Shannon, introduce yourself if I've not done so already.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I previously won world titles, but I don't have any at the moment, so I'm sort of chasing one. I mean, the WBA Gold title is meant to be a world title, but I want the one, so.
So could you just let us know, where did the name Shotgun comes from? Because the name Shotgun is quite distinctive. It gives me the message that you're tearing right through people. Where did that name originate from?
My amateur coach, I was at World Championships in Barbados, I think it was 2010. And at that time on the AIBA website, you couldn't see us fighting. You could just see the points going up. And I was fighting a Mexican girl, and my points in the last round just kept going up. And he was like, yeah, shotgun, pow, pow. And that was literally it. That's how it stuck. And so, yeah, right back from my amateur days, like 11 years ago.
It's a long-standing name that you've carried through.
Yeah. And then when I turned pro, I was like, I kind of can't not have it. And now it's just stuck.
Shannon, shotgun, Sharon. Yeah, the alliteration works. It fully blends in.
Yeah.
So, of course, looking over your career, you're quite well travelled. You've been all over the place. You've been to Argentina, South Korea, Canada, South Africa, New Zealand, Australia. You fought for titles. You fought from bantamweight up to super featherweight. You seem to have done a lot of things. What's been one of the most highlighted accomplishments you say you've done in your career?
I don't know about accomplishment, but probably one of the most highlighted fights in my career was when I fought in Canada. Lennox Lewis was co-promoter, and he said pretty much our fight was fight of the night. I didn't win the fight, but it was a war. Like, we both got hit, we both hit the canvas, and it was a great fight. People still talk about it now, and that was like 6 years ago.
Okay, so of course, coming into the professionals, you knew what you was doing. You fought in the World Championships in the Bahamas?
Barbados.
Barbados, my bad. Barbados. You was ranked #2 in the world at your weight category. You was actually, this was in 2011, you decided to turn pro, and the next year was going to be the Olympics. You was actually due to be on the Olympic team, but you decided to go pro instead. Having seen all the things that the Olympic girls have gone on to do, the platform it puts them on, do you have any regrets of potentially not going through with the Olympics?
Not at all. To be honest, like, I was 51 kilos for me was very light at the time. So I was pretty much just training to lose weight all the time. And once I turned pro, it was more just about learning and enjoying the sport again. But they told me the Australian Olympic team wanted me to move to Canberra, which is where the AIS is. And I've got 2 kids, I've got 3 kids now, but at the time I had 2 kids and a mortgage, so that was not happening for me. I turned pro straight away. And pretty much when I turned pro after my first fight, I was like, I can't believe I didn't do this quicker. It was awesome.
So moving on to your sons, I see that you have your son's boxing. So your oldest son, he's had a few fights himself, hasn't he?
Yeah, Coop, he's 15 this year. He's had 32 fights, so he's a gun.
32 already. Wow, he's almost hit your 50.
Yeah. He's fighting again next week as well, so he'll probably overtake me as an adult.
Do you do his corner? Are you training, coaching him fully?
And a lot of people say to me, like, how do you go coaching your kids? And probably the most nervous I've ever been was the 2 times I didn't get to corner him. So I think when you're in the corner, you've got a job to do, so the nerves don't kick in, the fact that that's your son getting punched in the head. And I guess for me, with amateur boxing, I'm not really worried about him getting hurt. It's more worrying about his heartbreaking. But I guess that was more as when he was younger. Now he's a teenager, so he can deal with that.
It comes with the sport. It's a hard sport, win or lose, triumph or defeat. But you learn a lot of life lessons to come back stronger. You said with your life, you've had a hard upbringing, and boxing was also a hard sport, so you completely related to it and understood that if you want anything in it, you're going to have to put in that effort, that graft, and you're going to have to overcome every obstacle, and you seem to be doing that right now.
Yeah, for sure. I guess I sort of look at boxing as, like, I relate to my whole life, so every time something goes hard, I just go harder. And it's just, I'm just sort of at the moment, I feel like I'm boxing the best, and I'm fitter and stronger than I've ever been. And obviously, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. So people think that like I would be going backwards at this age, but I'm getting better.
Talking of the coaching side of boxing, let's look at the part of the boxing. Do you see yourself going into full-time coaching for other professional fighters once you retire?
I don't know about professional, but definitely I own a boxing gym now. So I'm sort of already setting that up. I probably haven't put enough into my gym that I should have at this stage because I'm still focused on my own career. But definitely once my career's over, I'll look at really building up my own gym. And so I'm stuck ever.
Boxing's not leaving your life anytime ever, anytime soon, anytime the decade. So
that's obsessed.
Of course, you've been boxing. Well, you turned pro in 2011. You was boxing many years before that. You've seen the evolution and change in boxing. You've seen women's boxing come to a very good peak for a very good level. What advice would you give the female boxers that are out now? What advice would you give them, which you possibly didn't take on yourself or take on board in your early career?
Oh, that's a hard question. I don't know, to be honest. Probably one of the most important things that I think to give advice is it doesn't really go back on what I went through, but it's more about just respecting the sport. Because some of the girls that are coming through now, they just think that, you know, everything's paid for now and you know, it's just everything's handed to them on a silver platter. And that's not how I was brought up through the sport. Like when I spoke about when I went to Barbados, like we paid the entire trip for ourselves. Nothing was funded, nothing at all. And majority of my amateur career, right up until the end, when they introduced it to the Olympics, nothing was paid for. We had to pay our own way, and we still had to find like funding and sponsorship and things like that. And no one was interested because we were just girls. So I guess probably the best advice that I can give to the girls now is don't take it for granted, because there's people that really had to bust their ass to get you girls to where they are.
I think that's a very good point. How the game is now compared to how it was 20 years ago, women's boxing got little attention. It got attention in bursts here and there. You may have a Mia St. John, a Layla Ali come along who catches a lot of headlines, but other than that, the rest of the girls, they had to persevere for a lot. And of course, in your career, so I've seen you came onto the scene. You was a featherweight. You've been up to super featherweight. You've been around super bantamweight. You are now at bantamweight. You seem to have gone in reverse from super featherweight down to bantamweight.
I was never featherweight. Like even, I mean, I was 51 kilos as an amateur. So even debuting at featherweight was not my weight. It was just, I pretty much had to just take the fights where I could get them. And I'm not someone that's going to ever be picky and choosy, because I don't like enjoy training. Like I want to fight. And the way I look at it is, like I'd rather fight. I'd rather get in there, have a crack, and even lose if that's the case, than not fight at all. I guess earlier in my career that was more the case. Now I'm a bit smarter. Obviously, I've sort of paved the way, and that's why I'm chasing this bantamweight division, because I'm not in a position now where I need to keep chasing fights. Whereas earlier in my career, I had to give away a lot of weight.
So would you say bantamweight is your natural weight? You're comfortable at bantamweight. That's your prime optimal weight.
I'm strong at bantamweight. I'm bantam or super bantam. But I do feel like my last 2 fights at bantam, I've felt great. It hasn't been that great getting there, but I've felt great doing it. Like once I'm in the ring, I'm great. Like I've done rounders and felt like I could do 10 more rounds at the end.
So I've seen, of course, your posts, your social media, your training regimes, and you seem to fully incorporate the lifestyle of training and healthy and nutrition all the way around. It seems that you're getting better with age. It seems that as the years go on, you're becoming more physically ripped, more physically in shape. Where many people are said to be coming off their peak or deteriorating, you seem to only be getting stronger and getting better. How does that work out?
Like I think women do peak later than men, but I think everyone's different. I had a baby 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago, and like straight away, like I started feeling great, and I wasn't going to fight after he was born, but then I was like, why not? I feel good, like I'm enjoying it. So, and I do, I've started doing a different type of strength training, which is intense and builds the craziest mental resilience. Zoo training, all body weight stuff, but some of the things we do, like I posted a video that went for like a minute, and people were like, that's crazy. I'm like, that's 1 minute of a 1 hour session that I do 4 times a week. Like, it is crazy. And some of the things, like, I read them on the board and I'm like, I can't do that. And then you do it. So in your head, you walk away thinking, if I can do that, I can do anything.
Yeah, I definitely, one thing that does mature in all fighters and all athletes is the mental resistance, the mental capability of withstanding more pain. The more you go through, the more you learn, the more you know you can do it again next time. And I think you've now got to a point where you're holding it all together. You've been through so much, you've done so much, nothing can break you. You remind me in many aspects of Holly Holm, in that Holly Holmes just seemed to get better with age and her fitness stepped up every time around. In an interview, you said when you was in your 20s, you thought you was at the best you was. And you look at yourself now and you say, I was nothing back then. I'm 100 times better. Do you think you could be saying that in 3 years?
I thought I was back then.
Do you think you could be saying that again in 3 years? In 3 years, you look at your training now and be like, in 2021, I was nothing. I wasn't doing anything. Yeah. I'm the real deal now.
Maybe if I keep looking up to myself, I'm like, when I'm, you know, like I love chocolate cake. So when after a fight, I do pig out a lot, but I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't party. So that's probably comes into it a lot with, like, I don't do all the wrong things after a fight other than eat. So I guess that sort of keeps me a bit fresher than some people that go out drinking and all that sort of thing.
And one thing you said in your interview beforehand, when it comes to losing weight, you don't like saunas. I love saunas. No, I love saunas. They're great.
So against Shanika, you know, like, we were at a hotel where all of the fighters were staying there, and literally every single fighter was in the sauna. I was on the treadmill with a sauna suit on running. And I lost, the day of the fight, I lost 2.2 kilos, but I just ran for half an hour on a treadmill. And, like, not running, like I was barely moving. But yeah, it just come off me quicker that way. I can't deal with a sauna. It makes my head feel like it's going to fry.
Fair enough. We all have our own methods. Like I said, I love saunas. I think they're just so relaxing. You go in there, the heat, the sweat, nice, easy.
Yeah.
And an interesting comment you made on your one of your interviews that I saw is March 2019. You had a fight. You won by knockout, but this fight was quite peculiar because 12 weeks prior, you had given birth.
Yeah. Emergency. Yeah. I'm all about doing what people tell me I can't do. So, I mean, in saying that, like, I didn't do anything dangerous. I like, even when it came to running, I was like, oh, I'll just walk. And then I just picked up a slow jog. And then I'm like, oh, this, like, if it stops, I'll hurt. It didn't hurt, so I didn't stop. And I kept going. And then I was like, my coach, like, when can I fight?
I think for most sports, the majority of people, that is crazy because the majority of women, 12 weeks after giving birth, they're not looking to even go to the gym, but you was ready to put in work for a camp, step in the ring and fight someone that was coming to fight you.
Yeah, I own a gym, so I had no choice in that. But, I mean, like, they said to me in hospital, you can't walk upstairs. I'm like, I live in a townhouse. Like, I need to shower, which is upstairs. Like, how do I not walk upstairs? So, obviously, day one, I was walking upstairs, and then I was like, this isn't hurting. Like, what are they talking about? And then I think it was about maybe a week or 2 weeks later, I was like, oh, just see if I can do some sit-ups. And then I was like, it doesn't hurt, so I'm not going to stop. Literally everything I did, I was like, if it feels not right, and even when I was pregnant, I was running when I was still 39 weeks pregnant, and even through that, people were like, you shouldn't be doing this, shouldn't be doing that, but I just thought, well, if it feels weird to me or it feels like I shouldn't be doing it at the time, then I'll stop. But I was sweet. It
felt right, so you went with it.
Yeah.
So that's incredible. I think that's one of the most craziest things I've ever heard of fighting through pain, fighting through anything. That is, because like I said, I know females who have a birth, cesarean or natural, and for the next half a year, you're not going to see them at a gym. You're not going to see them carrying any heavy shopping bags. But you're out here fighting.
Fighting about their baby weight.
Well, yeah, you lost that baby weight real soon. Absolutely amazing. Just looking onto your recent form. So you debuted in 2011. We're now in 2021. You've had a 10-year career. You've had majority good times, but there has been some ups, there has been some downs to go with that. Looking at your last 6 fights, you've been on an absolute roll. 6 fights, 6 wins. You've defeated 3 undefeated fighters. You picked up the Australian title, the Commonwealth title, the WBA Gold title. In your last fight, you beat a very highly touted opponent in Sugar Neekz Johnson. You seem to be at one of the peaks of your career. How do you find that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, but like, I mean, I was doing things in training and like I was just slipping punches and I was like thinking in my head like, whoa, shit, that was close. Like, this is lucky. Like, that would have hurt. And then in the fight, I was doing it too. And I was like, well, maybe that wasn't a fluke. maybe I just learned how to move my head better. My coach said to me at the beginning of last year, he said, look, I'm happy for you to keep going, but I'm known, like, I get in a war. I make an easy fight hard. Like, I like to fight. And he said to me, look, you need to stop getting hit so much. And I was like, oh, okay. So we started working on that. And I was just literally like, I'll stand in the mirror for round after round and practice one punch and where my defense is with that punch. And it slowly gets getting better. And I guess it's just given me a whole new thing to work on. Like, yes, I train hard, but I also do a lot of easy things that is just competitive, like repetitive.
So it sounds like despite aging in the sport, getting on, you're still learning and developing new skills and new abilities, which you weren't doing so before in your younger days, which is excellent because they say that older
I don't think I wasn't still learning. Like, there's like, that's the thing I love about boxing is you're always learning. There's always a challenge. There's always, you can always be better. And that's what's kept me in the sport for so long.
Because they do say with fighters at a certain point, they stop learning, they stop picking on new things. So I think it's brilliant that you're at the point of your career now where you're 28 fights in and you're still picking up new stuff, you're still learning, you're still progressing forwards. How did you find the fight with Shiva Neekz Johnson? Because I watched that fight and that was a very close fight. It was very, very close. I think a split decision was fair. How did you see that fight in your heads?
Like, to be honest, with being down there, I thought, shit, if the rounds are close, they're probably not going to go my way. But I just felt like I had a lot more. There was punches that were. It's hard to say. She's got no power, so there was punches that she was landing and they were cheering, and I was like, what's going on? That wasn't a punch. And I was then I was like, oh shit, I hope the judges aren't seeing that and hearing them and thinking that she's hurting me or something. So I sort of thought, I hope the judges aren't going to go that way, because the punches, like, they weren't even punches. A lot of the ones that were landing, like, she's got absolutely no power at all in her shots. So I wasn't worried about that, but I was just, she was very awkward. So it took me a while to sort of find how to get through her lead hand. And I think once we got that, it wasn't one of my hardest fights, to put it that way. It wasn't a physically hard fight at all. Like, I could have done 20 rounds at that pace. It was just more mentally, I had to work her out. And I think probably the early rounds, probably the first maybe 5 or 6 rounds, they were even. There was, like, I think I won one, she won one. And then from 6 on, I feel like I won most of those rounds. And I felt that in the ring. Like, I just felt the stronger fighter.
Okay, so you walked away confident that you'd have picked up the win. Because, like I said, watching it, being honest, I do think it was a very close fight. I think it could have went either way. Possibly going in your favour. Yeah. I'm not going to complain that it went in your favour. But yeah, it did seem very close. If you was to have a rematch, what differences do you think you could implement to make it more decisive?
To be honest, I think in a rematch I win easier because I know what she's bringing now. Like, we literally, we didn't see any of her training, anything. I didn't know what she was going to get in the ring doing. Now I know she's not going to change that. She's going to come out the same fighter, and I can actually train to fight her rather than just training. And I don't know that there's going to be a rematch, because I mean that she's been real disrespectful, and her team have, and a lot of things that they're saying, I'm like, ball's in my court now. If you want a rematch, then respect. Like, I'm a lot older than her. I've done a lot more in the sport than she's done, and I think I deserve that. I also know that if it was the other way around, they wouldn't give me a rematch. So why? Yeah, to be honest, I beat her. That's done. If there's bigger and better, it'll happen. If not, if there's a rematch, it'll be because there's no other option for me, and I want to stay active.
Well, talking of fellow Australian fighters or fellow residential fighters, there's another fellow residential fighter who's hovering around Australia who you have yet to meet. And she happens to be fighting for the WBA Bantamweight World Championship this Saturday, as in Miss Ebony Bridges versus Sharon Courtney. Have you and Ebony come close to having a fight signed, or has anything along those lines been possible?
No, offered her a fight for the Commonwealth title. They turned it down. At the time, they said that she wasn't ready for me, but in the future, she'd want to fight me. I mean, yeah, a lot of people talk rubbish about her to me, obviously thinking they're going to get a bite out of me. I think, you know, if someone offered me that fight, I wouldn't say no. Like, no one's going to expect her to say, no, I don't deserve it. Shotgun does. Like, take it and run with it. But is she taken seriously as a proper fighter in Australia? No. A lot of people laugh, and yeah, good on her for having a crack. I honestly did want her to do well, but I've seen a lot of videos lately where I was like, what are you doing? Like, she's making us Aussie girls look like real bogans.
So, of course, she's fighting Shannon Courtney on Saturday. How do you see that fight going? Do you feel that Bridges has a chance of bringing that title back to Australia?
I'd like to hope so, because I feel like that'll make it easier for me to get my hands on it. But no, I don't think she's got a chance really. I think that Shannon Courtney will be too sharp and too fast for her, and probably want it a little bit more.
So, of course, right now you're ranked number one in Australia. You're ranked number one in the WBA, and you've got the WBA Gold title. I would think, by logic sense, you would have dibs on the winner of this fight going into it. Has there been any Has there been any talks or negotiations for potential matchups with the winner, regardless of who it is, whether it be Courtney or Bridges?
No official talks, but like, we have put it out there that that's what we want. So obviously we'll wait and see what happens on Sunday morning for us, and see who does win.
So, of course, you said you think we'll win due to practicality. In your heart, who would you like to see win? Would you like to see Bridges bring the title back to Australia, another Australian world champion? Or do you not have any attachment or care?
Yeah. A technical draw and no one gets the title. No, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, in the case of the fact that Ebony Bridges is an Aussie girl, yeah, I'd like to see her win. But really, I don't care who wins. Good on them both for having a crack and getting in there. I believe I beat them both anyway, so I really don't care who wins. The fight have it in Australia, have an all Aussie showdown for a big fight, hopefully get it on a big card, but I can't see Ebony Bridges winning, no.
Well, that's more than understandable. And what I think is very ironic in this whole scenario is that, like I said, the fight between yourself and Neekz Johnson, I think that should have really been for the WBA title. I think you're both in the position, at the level, to have claimed to being one of the best fighters in the bantamweight division. So when I heard that it was going to be between Bridges and Courtney, I was quite surprised, because I thought they skipped some very key opponents in the division. And it's not like the division's lacking in depth. You've got yourself, you've got Neekz, you've got a few other fighters from Mexico who are also in the division. It's not a shallow division. There are a few fighters out there that are definitely worthy of a title crown. Yeah,
for sure. There is some really good fighters out there at bantamweight. So I mean, and their fight was announced the week of mine and Neek's fight. So that was a little bit of a kick in the guts too. But it did confuse a lot of people. Like, why are these two girls that are not even in the top 20 fighting for the world title when me and Neek's are both I think we were at the time both in the top 10 in the world. So it makes more sense that we were fighting for the plain world title.
Boxing politics, it happens, doesn't it?
Yeah, it definitely does.
Well, like I said, you're number one WBA, you got the gold title. Hopefully moving into 2021, there's no denying that you get that world title shot, and that you're down the line getting to verse the winner, or possibly the fight happens before we get to 2022, because I think it's well deserved.
Hopefully, yeah.
Anyway, Shannon, so much thank you for your time. Is there anything you'd like to say to your people before we round this up?
Just thanks for following, thanks for listening, and hopefully, yeah, we'll get any of the main world titles I'm keen for. But yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. Thank you very much for your time, Shannon. Have a good evening, good night. I'm about to start my day. I'm about to get ready and go out. I'm guessing you're about to go to sleep. But yeah, thank you for your time. We'll keep in tune. We'll keep up to date. If you get any fight news, if there's any progression between you and the WBA, do let us know. We'd love to know the box story behind it.
Will do. Awesome. Thank you.
No problem. Have a good day. Or have a good night.
You too.
See ya.
Yeah. See ya.